Let me tell you something simple but powerful. Toxic people don't leave your life because they finally understand your worth. They leave when you stop making space for their chaos. You don't need to fight. You don't need to beg. You don't need to keep explaining yourself. You just need to do one thing: change how you respond. Toxic people feed off access. They rely on your reactions. Your emotional energy is their oxygen. So the moment you start breathing differently, they suffocate. When you set boundaries without guilt, the ones who benefited from your lack of them will fall off. Not because you're cold, but because you're clear. When you start choosing peace over drama, you stop entertaining confusion, you stop justifying disrespect, you stop overextending in the name of keeping the peace. Because peace kept at the cost of self-respect is not peace at all. Toxic people don't like clarity. Why? Because confusion is where they thrive. They love when you second-guess yourself. They love when you over-explain. They love when you chase their approval. So what do? You stay calm, you get quiet, you respond less and observe more. Because here's the truth. The loudest reaction doesn't win. The calmest energy does. The moment you stop showing up to their games, they'll call you distant. They'll call you cold. They might even call you selfish. But that's okay. Let them label you while you live lighter. Protecting your peace isn't arrogance, it's maturity, it's healing, it's strength. You want toxic people to disappear? Then stop holding the door open. There's a dangerous myth floating around that setting boundaries makes you selfish, distant, or even cold. Let's clear that up right now. Boundaries aren't barriers, they're bridges. Bridges that protect your mental health, your energy, and your integrity. They're not meant to push people away, but to teach them how to walk with you respectfully. You weren't born to be a people pleaser. That's a learned behavior, taught by environments where your worth was tied to how much you gave, how much you tolerated, and how little you asked for in return. But here's the truth. Constantly saying yes to keep others comfortable is slowly saying no to yourself. Boundaries are not about being mean. They're about being clear. And clarity, that's a form of kindness. Because when you're honest about what you can give and what you can't, when you communicate what's okay and what's not, you create healthy space. And in that space, you thrive. It's not rude to say, I'm not available for that conversation. It's not mean to say, I need time for myself. It's not selfish to say, that doesn't work for me. What's actually selfish is expecting someone to be endlessly available, endlessly agreeable, endlessly self-sacrificing, just to maintain a false sense of harmony. That's not love. That's control disguised as closeness. Saying no isn't a rejection of others. It's an acceptance of yourself. It's saying, I value my time. I value my energy. I value my peace more than temporary approval. And yes, some people will be offended when you set boundaries, but hear this. The people who benefit from your lack of boundaries are the ones who will be most upset when you set them. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them adjust, or let them leave. Either way, you're choosing peace over pressure. You don't have to justify your needs. You don't need to write an essay to explain why you're not available for someone else's emotional dumping ground chaos or manipulation. You don't need to over-explain your healing. Growth doesn't require a permission slip. Boundaries are not the problem. The discomfort people feel when you start honoring your worth, that's their problem to sort through. So say no with grace, say it with calm, say it with love, not just for others, but for yourself. Because every no you say to something that drains you is a yes to something that fuels you. And that right there is not rude. It's responsible. Responsible for your peace. Responsible for your future. And most importantly, responsible for the version of you that refuses to shrink anymore. You don't owe anyone access to you just because they're used to it. Let your boundaries speak and let them protect everything you're becoming. You're allowed to grow quietly or loudly, slowly or suddenly. You're allowed to become someone new. Even if that version of you makes other people uncomfortable, growth is personal. It's messy. And it doesn't always come with a press release. There's this pressure we sometimes feel to explain, to justify, to convince others that the changes we're making are valid. But the truth is, you don't owe anyone a walkthrough of your healing. You don't have to explain why you stopped answering certain calls, why your goals changed, or why you don't show up the same way anymore. Because growth, real growth, often looks like distance to the ones who were comfortable with your dysfunction. When you evolve, you stop participating in things that no longer serve your peace. You start saying no where you used to say yes. You become protective of your time, your energy, and your presence. And not everyone will clap for that. Some people loved you better when you were broken, because broken was easier to control. You were predictable. You didn't push back. You didn't ask for more. But now you're healing. Now you're setting standards. Now you're not afraid to walk away from anything that costs you your self-respect. And that shift, that threatens the comfort of those who benefited from your silence. Still, let them feel what they need to feel. Because the right people, they won't be intimidated by your growth. They'll be inspired by it. They'll understand that your evolution isn't a betrayal, it's a breakthrough. They'll celebrate the stronger, clearer, healthier version of you, even if it means less access, fewer yeses, and more boundaries. You'll know who those people are. They'll listen without judgment. They'll encourage your direction, even if it looks different than theirs. They'll applaud your changes because they love you, not the version of you that made them comfortable. But those who start pulling away when you start growing, let them go. Your healing isn't up for debate. Your progress isn't a group project. You are allowed to redefine who you are, what you accept, and how you live without asking for approval. You don't need to write speeches explaining why you're no longer interested in chaos or why your peace matters more than popularity. Grow anyway, change anyway, evolve anyway. Because you're not here to stay small for the sake of making others feel big. You're not here to dim your light just because it shines differently now. So walk your path boldly, without apology, without shame. You are not required to explain your growth to people who were never meant to come with you. Let them wonder. Let them talk. Let them assume. Meanwhile, you keep becoming. We live in a world that rewards noise, quick reactions, constant opinions, instant replies. But here's the truth most people overlook. Not every situation deserves your energy. Not every comment deserves your response. And not every insult deserves your attention. Silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. Because when you choose silence, you're not giving up, you're leveling up. People often mistake silence for submission, but silence, when intentional, is a strategy, a boundary, a form of power that says, I'm in control of me even when you're trying to pull me out of character. Toxic people hate silence. They crave your reaction because it means they still have access to your emotions. They'll poke, provoke, and push just to get a rise out of you. Because if they can get you to react, they can shift the blame. They can paint you as emotional, unstable, or dramatic. But when you stay silent, they lose their weapon. You see, silence is restraint. It's emotional intelligence in action. It says, I refuse to shrink myself to match your chaos. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to clap back. You don't have to prove anything to anyone who's already made up their mind. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to say nothing and watch everything become clearer. Because when you're silent, you can observe. And in that observation, you gain clarity. You see motives. You see patterns. You see truths that words often try to hide. Not reacting gives you space. Space to think, to breathe, to respond from a place of strength instead of impulse. And silence doesn't mean you're ignoring reality. It means you're choosing peace over performance. It means you're choosing dignity over drama. It means you've mastered the moment rather than letting the moment master you. Yes, there will be times when silence feels heavy, when everything in you wants to fight back, clap back, prove your point. But those are the exact moments where silence becomes the real strength. Because it takes courage to pause, to protect your peace, to not let someone else's chaos control your behavior. Not reacting is a message in itself. It says, you no longer have power here. And if they don't get the message, good. Let them guess, let them wonder, because the moment you stop explaining yourself to people who only listen to twist your words, you win. So be still, be calm, be deliberate. Let your silence do the talking. Let your peace speak volumes. Let your self-control be the loudest thing in the room. Because silence, when chosen with purpose, isn't the absence of power. It is the power. And it speaks louder than any argument ever could. Words are easy. Anyone can say the right thing when they want something. But if you want to know someone's truth, watch what they do, not just what they say. Toxic people are often masters of charm. They know how to sound sincere. They know how to string together the perfect apology. They'll cry. They'll promise. They'll even blame themselves just long enough to keep you close. And when they feel like they've pulled you back in, they go right back to the same behavior. This is the cycle. Hurt you, apologize, charm you, repeat. Over and over again until you become numb to the apology and conditioned to believe this is just how it is. But here's the truth. Real apologies come with changed behavior, not just emotional words. If someone keeps saying, I'm sorry, but you're still experiencing the same pain, the same disrespect, the same patterns, they're not sorry. They're just buying time. Don't be fooled by flowers after disrespect. Don't be swayed by soft words that cover sharp patterns. Don't confuse temporary kindness with lasting change. Because someone who truly values you will put in the effort to consistently show up differently, not just sound different. And when you begin to grow, to evolve, to heal, you'll start to see things clearly. You'll stop explaining away red flags. You'll stop rationalizing poor behavior because of good moments. And you'll stop falling for words that lack follow-through. Pay attention to consistency. Pay attention to how they treat you when they're not getting their way. Pay attention to the shift in their tone, the patterns in their reactions, the way they handle your boundaries. That's the truth. The rest is performance. The hard part is this, Toxic people rarely show their patterns early on. They give you highlights in the beginning. They mirror what you need. But eventually their behavior reveals what their words tried to hide. It takes strength to detach from someone who talks well but treats you poorly. It takes wisdom to realize that loyalty to dysfunction is not love, it's self-abandonment. And it takes courage to say, I see the pattern and I choose to break it. So if someone's words sound right, but your heart feels wrong, trust your gut. Your peace matters more than pretty apologies. Your sanity matters more than sweet talk followed by silent sabotage. And your growth requires that you believe what you see, not what they keep saying. People show you who they are. Over time, the mask slips. Patterns repeat. Energy reveals intention. So stop giving second chances to the same first offense. Stop accepting apologies without accountability. And stop listening to words that were never meant to be backed by action. Behavior is the truth, and once you recognize the pattern, you can choose to stop participating in it. That's not cruelty, that's clarity. And clarity protects what words try to confuse. Self-respect isn't loud. It doesn't need to prove anything. It shows up quietly in your choices, in your boundaries, and in the way you allow people to treat you. Self-respect is your filter. It's what separates who gets access to you and who gets removed from your space. Because when you truly start respecting yourself, something powerful happens. You stop chasing people and start choosing peace. You no longer beg for attention. You no longer tolerate half effort. You no longer settle for relationships, friendships, or environments that leave you drained. People who once felt comfortable disrespecting you, ghosting you, manipulating you, or stringing you along, they'll start to feel uncomfortable. Not because you're doing anything to them, but because you're no longer doing anything for them. And that's the point. When you raise your standards, the people who were benefiting from your lack of them will start to disappear. That's not rejection. That's redirection. Let them leave. Let them distance themselves. Because you're not losing people. You're shedding dead weight. You're clearing room for those who meet you at your new level, not drag you back into the old one. See, we attract what we tolerate. If you constantly accept being overlooked, you'll stay invisible. If you accept inconsistency, you'll keep receiving half-hearted effort. But when you say no more, when you raise the bar and stop lowering it for people who can't meet it, everything shifts. You don't have to cut people off. You don't have to argue. You don't even have to explain. All you have to do is level up and watch who can't reach you anymore. That's the beauty of self-respect. It filters out the noise. It protects your energy. It teaches people that access to you is earned, not entitled. And yes, it might feel lonely at first, because once you raise your standards, there's a gap. The space where the wrong people used to be gets quiet. But don't fill it out of desperation. That silence, that space, that's where your healing begins. That's where alignment starts. Don't be afraid to walk alone while you wait for what's right. Because being alone in peace is better than being surrounded in chaos. Your job isn't to convince anyone to treat you well. Your job is to treat yourself so well that anyone who doesn't match that energy simply can't stay. So if you're wondering why certain people are drifting away as you grow, stop wondering. That's the filter of self-respect doing its job. You didn't lose them. They lost access to you when you finally decided to honor your worth. Keep going, keep rising, keep refining your circle, because the higher your standards, the lighter your life becomes. And the ones who are truly for you, they won't be intimidated by your self-respect. They'll rise to meet it. There's a kind of strength no one talks about enough, emotional detachment. Not the cold kind that disconnects you from the world, but the calm, clear kind that keeps your peace intact regardless of what's happening around you. Detachment is the secret weapon. Not because you don't care, but because you've stopped allowing someone else's opinion to dictate your self-worth. You've stopped handing over the remote control to your emotions. When you're emotionally entangled with toxic people, your highs and lows are tied to their approval. Their validation becomes your fuel, and guess what? They know it. That's how they control you, with silence, with mixed signals, with breadcrumbs of affection, not to love you, but to keep you needing more. But the moment you stop needing their validation, they lose control. You take your power back. You stop dancing for their attention. You stop chasing their approval like it's the prize for being good enough. Because here's the truth. Validation that has to be earned through pain isn't love, it's manipulation. Attachment means you can still care, but you don't cling. You can still love, but not at the cost of your identity. You can walk away not because you don't feel, but because you finally started feeling for yourself. People can't manipulate you with silence when you no longer fear solitude. They can't guilt trip you when you're no longer tied to their opinion. They can't gaslight you when you trust your own clarity more than their confusion. That's what detachment gives you, freedom, not from emotions, but from being ruled by them. It allows you to respond, not react, to observe, not absorb. And when they notice you're not reacting like you used to, that's when the power shift begins. They'll call you cold. They'll say you've changed. They might even try harder for a moment to pull you back in. But don't fall for it. Detachment is not about playing games. It's not about pretending. It's about choosing yourself when someone else keeps asking you to shrink. And yes, it takes time. It takes practice. But eventually you'll reach a point where your peace is no longer negotiable, where you no longer chase answers from people who gave you questions in the first place. So if you're feeling guilty for detaching, don't. That's the old version of you talking. The version that thought love meant holding on no matter how much it hurt. Now you know better. You've seen the cycle, you've felt the drain, you've tasted the peace that comes from no longer needing permission to be whole, and you're not going back. Because the real flex isn't proving your worth to someone who never saw it. It's walking away like you finally do. At some point in your life, you have to decide that your peace, your growth, and your self-worth are non-negotiable. And that means not everyone gets to go with you. You don't have to scream. You don't have to beg. You don't have to explain your value to people who are committed to misunderstanding it. Just raise your standards and watch who falls off. Just say no and watch who gets offended. Just choose silence and watch who starts getting loud. Just stop needing validation and watch who loses control. The truth is, when you change, your relationships will too. That's not rejection, that's alignment. That's clarity. That's growth doing its job. Let the toxic ones remove themselves. Let the patterns reveal themselves. You don't need revenge, you need respect. And it starts with the one you give yourself. So protect your energy, honor your evolution, set the boundary, keep your peace, because the right ones won't be threatened by your growth. They'll rise to meet it. Thank you for giving your time, your attention, and your heart to this message. Now go protect your peace and walk like you finally remember who you are.